Welcome to Philly Fortune Talks with your host, Jake Penny, where the city's brightest minds share the secrets behind their success. Are you ready to be inspired?
Ever wonder how powerful storytelling can elevate your personal brand or business? Today, we're joined by John Duffin, creator and host of Your Message Received podcast and voice training platform with over 25 years of experience helping executives and businesses craft impactful narratives. From his work across media platforms to empowering leaders through storytelling, John's insights are sure to inspire and transform how you communicate. Get ready to learn how strategic storytelling can help you optimize your brand, your business, and your life. John, it's a pleasure to have you on Philly Fortune Talks today.
Well, first off, Jake, I'm honored, and it's great to see you again. And I said, I'm sure it'll come up, and I'm excited since, like I said, since our meetup a few months ago, it's really fun to watch you evolve and watch our relationship evolve. So it's great and really nice to be here.
Likewise, John. So, you've had a dynamic career across media platforms, and now you're helping people enhance their personal brands through storytelling.
Mhm.
What kind of led you to this transition and what excites you most about storytelling?
So first off, what led me to that was probably more personal. I've been in business for a long time. I literally the field that stuck for me, so to speak, is the digital streaming, broadcast television, ad sales, and sales management platform, which I've was a part of for over 25 years. And so I've presented a lot. But what I didn't do early on, simply like you don't know what you don't know, is that sense of the depth of how you can help yourself professionally and personally when you're just able to focus and share a story with teeth that matters. And so the personal revelation, like I said, it was what really being in the field, and I was doing well, and but was more of I call myself like the consummate people pleaser, like the person, like the harried waiter or waitress that just wanted to keep, hey, do you want this? Do you want that? Can I get you this? Can I get you that? And in part, it helped me in business because as I learned, clients and colleagues and corporations like that. If you're just going to keep bringing them things, they're always just going to say yes. It's
Mhm.
not terribly fulfilling, but it bought me time. And so I went through some personal situations that were challenging for me. And that was close to 25 years ago. That was close to 25 years ago where, like I said, and I had several masks on, was not comfortable with myself personally, not comfortable with myself, being able to like being in the closet, having a number of things go on with me, that it was much more of a performance. And what I
Mhm.
learned after some change, things that, like I said, I needed to change and snap out of certain things, that I had to become more authentic because I had no choice. And so that sense of being more raw, which I was after some personal stuff transpired and I had to work through, um, was that sense of feeling inadequate in the very beginning. And so my antenna went up, and I can remember I really was kind of a different person when I spoke, and the way that I presented in terms of client meetings or board meetings or business plan meetings or whatever. I was learning I could listen more. I had to. I didn't feel like I had as much to say. And so what I found was I was also becoming more effective.
Mhm.
Unbeknownst, because I thought it was terrible. Like I really did. Like I'm like, oh my God, I'm a mess. And you know, and not to dance around topics. And I had just stopped drinking, and it was like had to. No one was sad about it. in my sphere. No one, no one was busted up. But I was all over the place. And I'm just coming out and I'm all confused and weird and stuff. But I learned I could connect better. I never saw that as a possibility. I thought I was less than. And then it turned out I was becoming a little more than because it was more true. So this realization that I could lean in to being a little bit more authentic, which then had me listen a little bit more, which had me go into more of a service mode as
Mm.
opposed to a people pleasing, how can I help and pay attention to what you said and then craft solutions and stories that mattered. And so ideally what started to happen is none of the stories were fairy tales, none of the stories were invented. All of the stories were based on not just reality, but they were based on understanding what somebody really wanted. And so I've been able to utilize that when you build relationships authentically. I mean, hell, you and I did that one night at North 10. We don't know each other from a can of paint, and we're smashed into some table, you know. But the relationships that night, and I'll get to all that in a moment, were authentic. They were legit and authentic. And I remember of a group of, I don't know, 11 people, I think, at the table. No one was trying to sell anybody. So, but things were happening. And so the stories that I've learned is if you tell somebody a story that matters to them, the old adage, it only matters if it matters to them.
Mhm.
And the only way you get it to matter to them is to build some sort of a foundation where they're willing to share information with you that matters. And so I've learned that crafting those stories that please in a way that matters as opposed to that people pleasing have impact. I was able
Yeah.
to sell more, lead teams better, present to my organizations, help clients now, and speak more true. And all of it's more true, and that's the part that I've realized, and that's what I want to help other people realize.
Yeah, the true authentic self,
Hmm.
coming from deciding to be of service to
Yeah.
yourself so that way you can serve others
Hmm.
better.
Hmm. And when you do that, as I learned, and it works, it's almost foolproof. Your results multiply. When I talk about optimizing your communications, that's exactly what I mean. Your results tend to multiply. Your teams tend to multiply because they're carrying out a message that matters to them rather than barking orders at your team and telling them things like, I need you to sell more, like they don't know that. Or, you
Yeah,
should
a friend of
close more
mine,
business, really. And so it compounds, and that's the part that excites me.
yeah, a friend of mine, you may know him, Sky Michaels. Um,
Absolutely. Yep.
he says, um, be selfish,
Mm,
to where
mm,
you selfishly serve yourself
mhm.
first.
Yep.
So that way you can better serve others.
There you
Because
go.
we live in a world where we constantly most people, I should say, are in a reactive state. We
Mhm,
react to the alarm going off. It
mhm,
goes off late. So we're in fight or flight mode,
mhm,
and we're constantly battling the the things that come at us, and we're not being true to ourselves because we forget who we are at the end of the day. Like, for a lot of people out there. Um, and yeah, I mean, having a great, knowing your story and how to project your story appropriately,
mhm.
it's just more authentic than ever.
I love that. And you just said something that really resonated to me, and I would just add one thing to it when you were talking about like be selfishly, or and that sense of that reactive state is what I was referring to.
Hmm.
So most people, most times, most often, me included, tend to be in a reactive state. everything that I communicate when I'm speaking with people, with clients, or whatever, or I've done some emceeing and hosting and live events and stuff, all has to do with just slowing it down a hair, and that proactive sense of bringing yourself into a situation, as opposed to throwing or forcing yourself into a situation. That's the part that's so impactful, and it didn't come to me naturally a long time ago. I had to learn and acquire it. The great good news is anybody and everybody can learn and do it. Anybody and everybody can. Everybody's got it in them. When and that sense of being a little less reactive. Oh my God, the alarms. Oh my God. Oh my God, traffic. Oh my God. Oh, my equipment's not working. Oh my God, is my mic down? All of that. It's really hard to serve people if you're just beating yourself up constantly over, some deep secret from 30 years ago. Not that I would know that, but you know what I mean? But it's like you can't serve other people. So that's the thing. It's like it requires a little bit of work, but the payoff is massive in terms of what I have found in regards to business success, relationship success, and trying new opportunities. It just works.
Totally agree. Now, can you share, a little about what inspired you
Mhm.
behind your podcast,
Right.
your message received, and
Mhm.
how it aligns with your purpose and your passion for storytelling?
I love that. So when I first created the podcast, I wanted something. This podcast has evolved in a few different ways. And so it has morphed into the present tense. And so, but in the beginning, really, what it was I was sharing voiceover tips because when I left corporate uh television sales and sales management, I launched a company. You see, I bought one of my handy dandy mics and voiceover equipment and whatever, right? So that was the intention of how that was going to go down. And then it morphed into its present form. And that present form happens to be the realization your message received, meaning getting your intended message received. What you intended to say without the distractions, without the hurdles, without the miscommunications. That easier said than done. And so it's the ability to be able to be yourself,
Mm.
listen to other people, serve in the sense that sounds belittling, right? That term of serving, right? But being in tune with who you're speaking to, because they are probably distracted too. They've probably got an equal or more quantity of hurdles, roadblocks, and situations. So, knowing that is easier said than done, knowing that you have a little control over the ability to be able to get your intended message heard and not take that for granted that they get you, for you to just prattle on about whatever, right? Or sell them whatever. That your intended message is being heard. So, what it has morphed to is it's important for me to find people that have been knocked back. I don't wish that for anybody. You know what I mean? Like, I'd want everybody's trajectory to just be upward and easy. But I admire people that have been knocked back and have gotten up. And so that matters to me. I think it's hard to be fully authentic if your life has just been a direct straight line of great.
Mhm.
But if it is for you, good. I'm happy for you. But for most people, it's not. So how I help is the realization that what I talk about, being authentic, being true, being able to stand in a situation, right? Being able to handle objections, being able to be bluntly honest in whether you don't understand a question, can't solve somebody's problem instantly, don't agree with where they're coming from, right? And not feel the need to lash back, jump back. And so the people that I search are people that, again, have shown resilience, have shown the fact that they have bounced back and become successful. And often it's a case of what message are they conveying that helps other people? I want people to get there faster than me. I don't want people to wait the amount of time that I waited. Uh, like I said, I came out of the closet, I was 40 and technically 42. So that's long. And it's like, if I can get you to be true and honest faster, well, then great. And they're the people that I seek to have on my show, that have a story to tell. So that's exactly where it goes.
Yeah, you said something, really important,
Hmm,
but it's also unfortunate at times, is you want people to have the most parabolic uphill,
sure.
trajectory
Sure.
of success, whatever success may look
Hmm.
like for that individual. It could be
Hmm.
wealth, happiness, love, contribution, family, whatever it may
All
be,
of it.
health. They're all different
Hmm.
variations of success, but for most people, it doesn't happen like that. It's
Hmm.
definitely a Six Flags roller coaster. And they leave out that it's not fun at
Great
times. So
analogy.
Six Flags more fun? No, no.
Been on them and I love it. I love it.
But you know, but at the same time, the people that have gone through trial and tribulations and
Hmm.
those roller coasters, and
Hmm.
they come out on the other side
Hmm.
more successful because they learned from that experience. Those make some of the best storytelling
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
branding
Yeah.
for people's businesses. Those tough times to where you got through that and now you're at a pinnacle of success
Hmm.
and it's relatable.
Hmm.
So I
It's
think
relatable.
it's unfortunate, but it's also super important that you do have some of those experiences.
Oh, without a doubt. Not to mention, I think the strongest way you can help somebody, and people help me too, so that I'll speak for me, which is when you realize that you're not all by yourself in something,
Mm.
right? There's an expression, dear friend of mine uses it. And every time I hear the expression, I think of my friend Betsy. You never have to go it alone. You never have to go it alone. And every time I hear that, I almost get chills to run through me because that's to me the whole purpose and point. When you realize that you're not all by yourself, it's so much easier to take the action steps, whether in business, whether in relationships. Communications works in all of those platforms and is critical in all of those platforms. And so you're like, all right, I'm not embarrassed. That's really all I'm trying to say. You're not embarrassed. Not everybody that's putting up their Instagram and LinkedIn pages of rip roaring success and everybody but you. You know what I mean? It's like, right. And then it's like, so they're the people that I seek. They're the people that I want to model because they matter to me, and my hope is that they matter to other people, you know.
I couldn't agree more with that. You've worked with many executives and businesses on branding
Yeah.
communication.
Yeah.
Um, when like curating an impactful story or message,
Hmm.
what's one of like the most important things you help that person or that business organization uncover?
God, this is a good question. I'll give you a recent example. So I work with a nonprofit organization, one that's very near and dear to my heart, the Darren Dalton Foundation, where they help families impacted by members of the family going through brain cancers and brain
Oh,
related injuries. And so I happened to join the crew, so to speak, in a very casual way. We started to run the Broad Street Run years ago. So what did I know about? I can't even pronounce the word. Globoblastomia. I still pronounce the word wrong, but a former Philadelphia Philly, Darren Dalton, was one of several Philadelphia Phillies in his era that were affected by brain cancer and passed away. And so it was awful, right? And so they started the Darren Dalton Foundation while Darren was still alive. And again, I'm running the Broad Street Run. That was the reason. That's what got me in. And that was fun. And we ran with a group and all that stuff. Years and years. And I volunteered in certain things. I get a call from them. And they're like, look, we want to update our sizzle video.
hmm.
And so, and the first one was quite good. It's not like, oh, it was bad and now I'm going to help you. It was like, it was great. So I took the project on. And to me, the whole point of it is what story could you tell that could matter? So the things that I look for and I encourage other people in the crafting of someone else's story. All right. So obviously you can work on your own, but if you're helping somebody else to extrapolate their story, the things that matter, first off, do a little bit of homework rather than ask somebody, what do you want and what do you need? So I knew the organization, I knew the original video, I knew the dollar amount of the donations that they had received so far. I knew the events, blah, blah, blah. I'm not trying to sound like an expert. I took the time to know it, and so could you. So could anybody, right? So, number one, so that when I'm watching the original project, I could see how that was integrated and what was done and what was the trajectory. So number one, right? So you're just do your homework. It's not that hard. It's like all the information is so readily available. Take the time to do it because, and part two, when you're speaking to someone, asking somebody, what do you want? Sounds like such a great, basic, easy question, and most people don't answer it. And they don't answer it because it's too blank of a slate. So what do I suggest? Help them a little bit rather than handing them a blank canvas and saying, okay, do the work. Help them. So we went through the older stuff. I gave a perception of how I saw that work. And I said, one of the cool parts to me of telling a story in a business sense is they should always be about progression. And with progression, how things are changing, what matters to you now. I love your analogy of the Six Flags roller coaster. Well, the thing just went backwards all the time. It would kind of lose a lot of its fun, right? It's the forward trajectory to me that makes a story engaging and electric. So I now know what I saw. I've had conversations with the key people. And I said, here's what I'm seeing. I said, it seems like to me to move this forward, we need to not retell the original story. Let's make a leap here and assume that people know the original story. If we want to go back and very briefly identify like a recap, right? If you want to do a quick recap, hey, here's what I remember from before. Do I understand you correctly? Nobody has a problem with answering that question. Nobody. And if you're wrong, so what? They'll just answer it for you. And now you have information. What you want is the most present information because, again, go back to it only matters if it matters to them. And then what you're formulating is what would move this forward? For this organization, I was asking, would it be additional donations? Would it be a percentage increase in those donations? Would it be increased attendance at your events? Their events are great. Would it be more people? Would it be more events? I feel in their case, I was like, I feel like the branding is strong here. It's strong. So everyone knows what this is and they know who Darren was. But what do you want going forward? Well, as I learned, when you bring that much to the table, it's really easy for people to answer questions. And so that's what we did. So then it was like, okay, how do we move this story forward? What do you want to have happen? And when you help people by doing some of your own homework, they're able to answer those questions really easily. So what do? I took, okay, here's what you want to do to see this progress. Great. For me, the crafting of the story became a whole lot easier to do. So it's crazy. I go flying to Clearwater, Florida. They had me interview 11 of their ambassadors, some board members, a bunch of former Phillies. You know, I show up, customize the questions because I didn't want to insult their intelligence by asking them the same, tell me about Darren. It's like they do this. So again, do a little bit of homework. Ask questions that don't insult somebody's intelligence, you know what I mean? Or they get bored. And then it's amazing what you got. So we filmed about 3 hours of video, hot day. I got my face burned off of me. Clear water. I'm the only goof
That.
that's sitting in the sun during the video shooting, right? So at the end of the day, you'd see I have a blood red face, but we got what we needed, right? And then in the crafting of the story, when you have that much information, right? And it's like, oh my God, now we have to edit all this down to a 3 minute and 12-second video. And we got 3 hours. Yeah, it was over 3 hours of content. A bunch of different people. We want to make everybody happy. We don't want to leave anybody out, and all that stuff. So the answer to your question is as much advanced information, mutual cooperation, do your homework in your question asking because the answers you get back are so much better. And then you're able to solve situations. So we're able to carve it. And I'm not going to say the story told itself. It didn't. But you're now filling in the pieces. And then the last thing I would say is it always helps to work with great people.
Mm.
Go back to you never have to go it alone. So in my case, I had a colleague that I worked with who is far more than a videographer, far more. He's an amazing marketer, storyteller too. So we bounced info off of each other. And that's something I always share all across the board. If you got somebody to talk to before you present something, do it. Why not? You know what I mean? Be thick-skinned enough so that if somebody gives you feedback that's not 100% great, that you're person enough to be able to accept feedback and maybe use it to improve. And we delivered the video, and I hate talking about myself. I do, but it was great. It was great. It almost brings tears to my eyes because it was great because we knew we got it because there was never a surprise. And that's what I coach anybody and everybody. There should never be bad surprises. At the end of your business communication, there should be no surprises. And that's how the best sort of storytelling goes. Watch the fun. And I always suggest this with people. When somebody's eyes light up a little bit, or they nod their head a little bit, or what, you know what I mean? They're cues that you're reading them. You're about to get way more information from that person than somebody just blank staring you or checking their phone or
Yeah.
asking base level things or giving you short answers. So it matters in a business world. Build up the fundamentals by doing your homework, have the conversations proving that you've done your homework, ask progressive leading questions. People will answer you then. Listen to them. And then you're able to present a story that's got some teeth and got some grit, and then it tends to work.
Yeah, being less transactional.
Oh, oh
Less
yeah.
scripty by the
Mm-hmm.
book or,
Mm-hmm.
robotic.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, they've been down that road time and time again with the same, person interviewing them,
Uh-huh.
probably the same questions,
Mm-hmm.
and you brought a different aspect to it, and you serve them well, and now look at the final product.
And the final product then leads to business results, which part is great. This has worked for me in major ad agency client presentations, the same set of circumstances that I brought up. Different client. I mean, this was, are you going to continue to buy advertising on my network at a high and higher level than we have before? It's the same steps. And as I said, you're on the right track because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't. But you just don't want to insult somebody's intelligence by asking a bunch of blank slate questions and have them do all of your work.
Right. Storytelling can often involve, um, like vulnerability.
Oh,
So
yeah.
how do you encourage your clients to like
Mhm.
embrace that in their messaging while also saying authentic, right? I mean,
Right.
your story itself is a
Mhm.
a direct correlation with
Mhm.
this question. And you know, it's super important to have true vulnerability as well as true authenticity.
Mhm.
Because again, that makes like an amazing story, being real and true to who you are. And, in a world where authenticity is scarce sometimes
Mhm.
for people out more than sometimes. What is your take on that?
So love the question. And because it wasn't easy for me, I appreciate it all the more. And I remember that part of it. So it was not easy. And I'm never going to be the person, oh, all you have to do is, that's not me. Because I knew it was hard. I had to have some major things happen in my life to be able to flip that switch. So if you don't have major things going in your life that are going sideways, you know what I mean, at a certain point, well, I don't want that for you. But here's what you could do is take baby steps. So you just brought up something before, and I'm gonna like lean into that a little bit in regards to like conversations, right? And so one of the things I thought about was in authenticity. Less scripty, I think is the words you used exactly, right? And so damn right. And less scripty doesn't mean don't do your homework.
Right.
Come prepared. Know exactly where you're going in terms of the overall flow of an interview, a conversation, a sales president, whatever. Do your homework, but don't sweat bullet points, because what you want to be able to do is really answer the question that they've asked you, not go back to some PowerPoint slide that has nothing to do, which, well, yeah, as I was talking about on slide 74, no, I'm talking to you. So take a baby step. Let me give you the easiest one that has worked for me. I'm not saying it'll be easy for you, but the easiest one that works for me. Somebody gives you an answer, a little less scripty. Try this sometime. Say to them at some point, did I hear you? I just want to make sure I heard you right. So you're saying a little bit less scripty, right? I remember one time I'm delivering a presentation and I was 7 slides past everyone else when I was speaking early in my career. And you know what my biggest fear was? That somebody would want to go back a couple of slides, because the reason I'm 7 slides ahead in my mind back then was because I typically didn't know the answer to that missing piece. Whereas typically the deepest bit of this, the only thing they wanted to know, the actual research, all that stuff. And I was uncomfortable with it. So my biggest fear was for you to stop me and say, oh, John, could you go back 2 slides and help me with that? That was my biggest fear. So the way that I alleviate that is, first off, you do not have to solve the world's problems. You don't. Nobody's asking you to solve everything. If you can help somebody with one thing,
Mhm.
the vulnerable part, I'll give you a very direct example. Recent. So our mutual friend, Josh Buchter, uh, has done a phenomenal job. And I heard Josh on your podcast, and it was terrific, talking about his events. Well, I've hosted a couple of them. I was the MC for a couple of the events, and I remember the first one I did. So I remember I gave Josh a rough version, literally just mic'd it and recorded it and sent it over to him. I went ahead in this direction. He gives me the go ahead. So we're going to do the night, and it's a typical Wolf of Broad Street thing. So it is off the charts in terms of a ton of people and a ton of energy. And about 10 minutes before the show starts, they're going to introduce me and I'm going to walk out and all that kind of stuff. So I'll share with you, I've never done that in my life. I've never emceed an event. I've presented in front of a lot of clients. I have presented in fairly large sales situations. Never done it in my life. When did that realization come to me? Oh, about 20 minutes before I was about to go on stage. And I'm trying to write notes. God, so I'm there with Josh and Beth, and they're like just doing, and then they have to like open the doors, right? And we're there, and Beth's like, oh, I got a pen, I got some index cards if you want. And I'm writing notes for myself on these index cards. And I'm half sweating because I'm now a complete nerve job. And so I'm smearing up all the index cards. So I have Sharpie on my hands and can't read any of the notes. And I say all that because I just ditched them. I just ditched them. And so did some deep breathing, some techniques that I utilize in regards to like Navy SEALs breathing techniques and stuff like that. I did that. And the vulnerability part came from me in the sense that I didn't do a script. I knew in my mind what the flow was going to be, but I talked about some personal stuff, um, and it worked. There's a dude. There was a lot of people that were there, but one dude in particular that did something for me that I'll never forget. His name is Chris Stevens, regional director for Keller Williams and Power in the Philadelphia area. Also a massive good guy, right? And so I love Chris. I'm just crazy about him. And if he did nothing else for me, he did this. That I remember I get done and then the event's over and it felt good, but you never know. You know what I mean? You never know. Like and I just looked at him because I just look up to Chris. And I remember I looked at him. I'm like, was that okay? And he like does this, puts his drink down and walks over and throws this massive bear hug on me. And that's when I really knew one more time that authenticity works. Because I shared some of the personal things, I shared some of that. You don't have to be a hero. But what I say to other people, because it was one of the most emotionally powerful things that is like, okay, now I'm a public speaker. Who'd have thunk it? I guess I am. And then it happened again and again. And so, but I don't mean that to impress you. That actually I say to impress me because the vulnerability part is the part that was so key for me. But what I'd say to anybody is take baby steps, take the slightest risk. You know, you don't have to come off like this is a great era, I think, where people can afford to be a little more vulnerable. If you don't know the answer, say you don't know the answer. If you didn't understand the question, ask them to repeat it. If you don't know all of the answers, say, I know this. I can come back to you this evening. Try it. Try it. You don't have to fill every molecule with your voice. You just don't. You know, you don't need to be the laugh riot. You don't. Just talk to somebody. Just absolutely just talk to them. And trust yourself and see
I
where it
love
takes
it.
you, you know?
So what's next for you in
Mm,
Duffin Media
mm,
and
yeah.
anything that's exciting, new projects or directions you're pursuing?
Thank you. Yeah. I one of the things that really elevates me is this, that I like to compound. I'm a big, like we talk about progression. So I'm a big believer in compounding things. So the area that I had that excites me is when I can do this for multiples. If we can get the message out faster to more people, then to me it's powerful. So my direction is speaking with companies, speaking with sales organizations, sales training, sales coaching are all in my sight lines now because I'm not your person to need to, I know the nuts and bolts of business. I know the nuts and bolts, but very often in fields, real estate's one of them. The sales training involves teaching you the agreement of sale. Obviously, it's important. Obviously, it matters. It's also not selling. It's also not relationship building. It's filling out a form. So where I seek to go now is I speak with organizations within my field, my former field, broadcast, digital, ad sales. I work with clients from that field on an individual basis. There will definitely be more keynote speeches. I've gotten approached by a couple of other people that really excites me because you can't believe the energy transfer of being in front of somebody. And that's what I keep getting reminded. So, where I want to be able to do is the message is very specific, but it's not singular, which is everybody can be more authentic. It absolutely is worth your while to do it. It's not just that your relationships will become stronger, It's that your levels of success will rise incrementally. Not to mention you'll help more people, so it'll feel good in the process. And so where I'm headed is always in the direction of speaking to teams and organizations so that you're not misunderstanding really what revenue generation is. It's not just churning out your products. It's not just slamming bullet points at people. It's making it stick. I'll definitely be accelerating the podcast. I'm excited. There's been 115 episodes so far. Some of our friends from that night at North 10. And by the way, you're up whenever you say the word. Maria Quattrone has been on, Jada Rand, Josh Buchter's been on, Sean Gunning have all been on the show. My thought is to model you. I want to absolutely wildly accelerate the quantity of the podcast. It really matters to me. So that's on the horizon as well too.
Yeah. I mean, your sphere of influence and your network is
Mm-hmm.
very, very large. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that can be done at a moment's notice, and ramp that up. Um, for as we wrap this up here,
Yeah.
you know, you said you talked a lot about being vulnerable. You talked a lot about
Mm-hmm.
being authentic.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's like that one piece of advice for somebody that's wanting to like master the art of communication and storytelling? Or is it something else? Like if you were to give that one piece of advice, what would that be?
If there's more than one piece of advice, I would probably start with the be authentic and then solve the other pieces. Why? People respond to it,
Hmm.
right? That authentic is not dropping all your personal baggage on somebody, but authentic is being willing to expose yourself a little bit so that somebody feels comfortable to speak more with you. There's a method to the madness, but that's what it is. And so if they feel walls, if they feel that sort of thing, your other person, your audience, your client, whatever, your corporation, if they feel the wall, well, they put one of their own up. So when you're authentic, to me, it's more important than how pretty your voice sounds, which is kind of meaningless, right? Because I don't gravitate to tones and notes. I gravitate to somebody who's authentic. I pay attention to you a little bit more. I answer a little more directly. I feel a little less guarded. So I'll share with you a little more, which is what you want. So, number one, you want to master the art of communications, like you asked me. Uh, be a little less worried about yourself. Trust yourself a little bit more. Don't worry if you make a mistake. Don't worry if something isn't as funny as you thought it was. Don't worry so much. Just allow yourself to be fully present in the situation. And that to me defines authenticity. And I will repeat, which is people gravitate toward it. And by gravitate, I mean they reward it with information or a relationship or something. It just naturally gets rewarded. And that's what I would always say. First and foremost, be more authentic, be more true to you.
People can sniff and tell if you're a sleazy salesman, trying to sell spit shine shit.
Right. But Jake, do you know how they know? It's because none of it feels true. I don't care if you know every bullet points of the, as we'll call it, spit shine shit. That's easy for you to say, by the way. But I mean, it's because it's not true. It's not true. It's you trying to impress somebody with all your knowledge because you're so worried that somebody's going to think you didn't know everything, and that means you're stupid. And it's none of that. Just talk to people. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just talk to them, right? I love the way that you ask questions because have you ever guested or like as you've hosted where people have very scripted answers, and that's typically for me a wall.
Oh
It's a
yeah.
wall. You're hiding something. And it's like, and I always feel bad. I'm not worried about what you're hiding. I don't even need to know. But all I know is you're hiding something, which means we're not 100% present in a conversation, which means I'm less engaged.
For sure. I mean, quick story.
Yeah,
Um, you know, like you said, when things are scripted, it's not authentic.
right.
Leanne and I were on DIY Network,
Okay.
like a couple years, like not a couple years. We're talking back 2017,
I
2018.
remember you shared that with me at North 10. Yep.
And we were on a show, First Time Flippers, Quick
Mhm.
Flip, Slow Drip. And everything was scripted. Everything. All the media people, everything that we did was scripted. And I'm just like, holy
Reality.
moly, Batman. Like, this is crazy. I had like, 30 redos for one shot. Liana was like a natural because she would like could remember it and just like go with the flow. I'm like, this
Right.
is so not real. Like, I
Yep.
can't do this. It's tough. So I give props to anybody that's in acting. That shit is really hard.
So I've done some acting and I admire, and here's what I'll say. Somebody says in regards to acting, good acting, by the way, there's always a piece of you in it because you're a part of it and they're the best ones. So there's nothing real about what they were dumping on you. You know what I mean? In this like alleged reality of first time flipping. And then we need 30 shots of you're real. So it's like know the story, know the intention of why you're showing up and having a conversation, whether it's on first time flippers, whether it is in front of your brand new relationship, whether it is your number one client or your number one client that you're aspiring to build or build into or close. Honor them with nothing more than preparation and being able to be vulnerable and authentic. Vulnerable is not bursting into tears when you don't know an answer. Vulnerable is not turning it into a you thing. Vulnerable is being brave enough to progress a conversation with, again, don't know the answer, never thought of it. Jay Duran on your podcast talked about early in his career the sense that he literally acknowledged somebody that was concerned about something, and rather than force feed an scripted objection handling, he simply acknowledged it. He's a pro. You know what I mean? He's a pro. That's how you fix things, and that's how you move things.
Well, hey, John, it's been a pleasure having you on Philly Fortune Talks today. For those who want to learn more about Duffin Media,
Mhm.
your coaching, storytelling, or
Right.
just connect with you, maybe, hop on your podcast,
Mhm.
what's the best place for them to reach you at?
Easy. So first off, duffinmedia.com, all one word, duffinmedia.com. There's a contact me, which has my email address and all that stuff. But for your listeners as well, two things. Number one, my email address, jd@duffinmedia.com. My initials, jd@duffinmedia.com. And mention Philly Fortune Talks, and I'll respond even more quickly if you do, simply because I'm honored to be here, man. Jake, I'm such a fan, and I'm really grateful for your energy. Yeah, it's been great for me today, so thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Thanks for tuning in to Philly Fortune Talks with Jake Penny. Inspired to share your success story? Visit phillyfortunetalks.com/guest and let's inspire together.